okay.
It's a crisp Canberra morning, and MPs and staffers are gathering at a field in the shadow of Parliament House for a friendly hit-out. Today's football match has been organised by the Parliament Sports Club.
All right, everybody, can I get everybody's attention, please?
Parliamentary Sports Club is an organisation that essentially facilitates sport in the mornings. It's a great way to get to know your colleagues. Staff turn up, people who work at Parliament House turn up.
Anyone this morning that stands out, you could be on the plane to America. So no pressure.
To Wallabies rugby union captain turned senator David Pocock, this morning's match is a welcome antidote to the claustrophobia of the chamber that awaits. But what he doesn't know, at least at this point, is that the privately owned Parliament Sports Club is about more than sport.
Turns out, and myself and many of my colleagues didn't know this, they were essentially being sponsored by a whole bunch of companies, industry groups, including the gambling lobby. And so the gambling lobby were paying for access to events.
It turned out it was also a way for lobbyists to access politicians when we're off guard in the early morning and basically to cosy up to them.
Watching from the sidelines this morning is the most powerful sports betting lobbyist in the country, the CEO of Responsible Wagering Australia, Kai Cantwell.
Oh, their access is extraordinary. They're all over every politician, and they never miss a trick.
David Pocock has taken a hard line against one of the gambling industry's most potent weapons, sports betting advertising. He wants it sin-binned from our screens. So the involvement of Responsible Wagering Australia in the Parliament Sports Club, as well as others like alcohol and fossil fuel companies, meant to him that a line had been crossed.
Because of the way the Parliamentary Sports Club was set up and operating, they had advice that they had to list themselves as a lobbying organisation on the lobbyist register. The Prime Minister is essentially like the patron of the sports club. And so you had the Prime Minister, who's essentially the patron of a lobbying firm, for all intents and purposes, if you go by the lobbying register.
The Parliamentary Sports Club turned out to be a registered lobbying firm.
It did. And when I raised concerns about this, I was kicked out of the club. Got an angry phone call saying, mate, you're causing trouble, you're out.
Football was the winner. That's time now. All over. Thank you.
The sports club CEO, Andy Turnbull, declined Four Corners' interview request, but he told us corporate money was used to hold fixtures and dinners and for running costs, and that club members were aware of this corporate support. You're a former Wallabies captain. Is this the first team you've ever been kicked out of?
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah.
The Parliament Sports Club removed itself from the lobbyist register just a few days after David Pocock was kicked out.
Well, I think the Parliamentary Sports Club debacle highlights just how normalised it is. That for many in there, it's just the status quo. People that are part of industries pay for access, they lobby hard, they get privileged access. And that's just how things work in this place.
Four Corners has examined lobbying registers, ministerial diaries and political donations to investigate who gets access to Australia's decision makers and how little the public is told about it.
Australians do really value our democracy and we want it to be fair. And a broken lobbying system makes our democracy work unfairly in the interests of the powerful few and not in the best interests of everyone else.
Lobbying has been part of the Australian political landscape for decades, but critics say that never before have there been so many lobbyists with so much access to decision makers and so much influence over policy. Inside the People's House, hundreds of unelected representatives have privileged access to those who make the country's laws.
You can spot lobbyists in the wild by their orange passes. So you have to have a pass which is sponsored by a Member of Parliament. Those lobbyists can knock on the door and have free access to parliamentarians when other people have got very valid concerns or complaints who would like to talk to us are denied that opportunity.
4 of the country's top lobbying firms agreed to talk to Four Corners and to reveal how they operate. It's been extremely rare for lobbyists to come on television, particularly Four Corners, and explain how it all works. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I don't want people to think that lobbyists are like nocturnal creatures who only come out in the dark and don't want anyone to notice them. There's nothing wrong with advocating on behalf of clients to government.
There are broadly 3 types of lobbyists. The first, like me, is a third-party lobbyists, who are effectively contracted in by companies and organisations to assist them with their government relations need. And we're required to register under the Commonwealth Government's Lobbyist Register.
The second type of lobbyists are in-house lobbyists who work on behalf of large corporations who are representing the interests of that particular business. They don't have to disclose that they are lobbying, but they have access to Parliament House and are advocating on behalf of the interests of their employer.
The third type of lobbyist is the industry association lobbyist. They might work for a business council, they might work for a trade association. Either way, they do exactly the same sort of work as a third-party lobbyist, but they're exempt from having to register under the Federal Lobbying Code.
Lobbying's not the problem, it's just the total lack of transparency.
You're outnumbered, aren't you?
Yeah, we're surrounded.
Australian democracy doesn't need a lobbyist at all, but our economy does, absolutely.
Eamon Fitzpatrick runs lobbying firm Fitzpatrick & Co Advisory. Previously, he was a senior advisor to Prime Ministers Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard.
I think lobbyists provide a very useful service.
Government is big and it is complex. So employing a lobbyist helps you navigate through those paths.
Simon Banks leads Australia's biggest lobbying firm, the Labor-aligned Hawker Britain. He served as Chief of Staff to Labor leaders Simon Crean and Kevin Rudd. Is it a lucrative industry to be in?
Look, it's well paid. I don't think anyone would suggest to you that it's not. There's certainly, a premium for the service.
I would argue the currency of a good lobbyist is the expertise we provide, not the access.
Matthew Harris is the CEO of Barton Deakin, a Liberal and National Party-aligned lobbying firm. He's a former Victorian State Director of the National Party. Why have you agreed to talk to Four Corners about lobbying and what you do?
I'm really proud of what we do, not just at Barton Deakin, but also across the industry. And I think we play a really important role in Australia's future.
So having been in the House of Representatives for 26 years and been involved in sifting through many ideas and having your own ideas, lobbying is really an extension of what I did before, which is talking to people about their ideas.
Christopher Pyne is the chairman of Pyne & Partners. He served as Australia's Defence Minister and the leader of the House of Representatives.
They're all plotting how to stop me. Oh, wow, a phalanx. A phalanx of cameras.
A renowned political operative, he cultivated countless relationships across the aisle during his 2.5 decades in Parliament.
I'm a fixer. I fixed it. So I always played the ball, not the person. And I'm not an extremist, of course. I'm sort of a small L liberal, centre-right liberal type. So there's no particular reason to hate me.
Having those relationships across the aisle, though, it must be good for business.
Yes, it's very good for business, yeah.
As third-party operators, these 4 lobbying leaders have to register themselves, their firms and their clients with state and federal governments. But they say those rules don't apply to the hordes of in-house lobbyists who work directly for companies and big corporations. and who also have a pass giving them valuable access to Parliament.
Actually, the vast majority of lobbyists aren't on the register because they don't work for a lobbying firm. They are lobbying on behalf of their company. You know, Qantas Government Relations, not a lobbyist. It's their job to lobby.
How does the Commonwealth rank when it comes to lobbying rules compared to sort of the states and territories?
Dead last. The whole lobbying system at the moment is broken. So Australians just can't know who's trying to influence government decisions, who they're meeting with when they meet. That's all behind closed doors.
Even some lobbyists believe the rules need a shake-up.
The rules need to change. They need to be wider and broader, and more so than ever. You know,
more transparent?
Yeah, 100%. We need to be more transparent, yeah. Transparency means we get rid of the shocks.
So that's why I say those sort of rules should, of course, they should apply to someone like me, but anyone else who's performing that role in government relations, well, it should apply to them too. And if you breach those rules, well, there should be consequences for it, no matter who you are.
Under new reforms, in-house lobbyists now need 2 sponsors to get a parliamentary pass, and their details will be published on a website. But critics say the system is still not good enough.
It's embarrassingly lax. Then there's total lack of transparency as to who has access to the building. We've got this system where, and you know, this blew my mind after being elected. As a parliamentarian, you can give out an unlimited number of sponsored passes to anyone, really.
But critics say the flaws in the system extend well beyond who gets a parliamentary pass. It goes back further to where many of these lobbyists come from and their links to those in power.
What is the revolving door and why is it a problem?
So the revolving door describes the phenomenon where people leave political roles and then become lobbyists who are paid to influence the decisions that their former colleagues make on public interest matters. It's a problem because it's not fair. It's not meant to be a marketplace where access and influence get bought and sold.
The revolving door has long spun hard and fast in Australian politics. A gateway for ministers, MPs and senior advisors to move into lucrative positions in private lobbying firms or in industry, often in sectors they once regulated or oversaw. There is nothing illegal about it. But in their private sector careers, they are potentially able to leverage their connections to gain privileged access, and they can draw on their insider knowledge to help the commercial interests they represent.
It's the system that sucks. It's the system that is selling all of us out, and you've got dozens of examples of ministers that have gone on to accept pretty plum jobs in companies, in industries, set up lobbying firms and really milk the system.
Even some lobbyists acknowledge the revolving door is a lucrative transition that could trigger serious conflicts of interest.
Clearly there are circumstances where people, could walk out of a job today. They can hold very valuable information about government decisions and processes, and they should not be able to commercialise those activities. Like, that is very valuable government information that needs to be protected, and you need good processes to prevent that from happening.
One of those processes is spelled out in the official Federal Lobbying Code of Conduct, and it involves the so-called cooling-off period. For ministers, it's supposed to be 18 months. For senior advisors and public servants, it's a year, before they can lobby in areas they once worked in.
It's a pretty simple rule. If you've been a minister for 18 months after you leave politics, you can't approach or talk to the previous people that you dealt with in that department, certainly about anything to do with work. I mean, you can wish them happy birthday, but you're not allowed to talk to them about work.
To your knowledge, are the cooling-off periods even policed?
I don't believe that the cooling-off periods are ever policed. I've not seen any evidence of that.
When we raise this with the government, we raise this with departments, we get told nothing to see here, nothing to see.
Is it monetising your public service?
Everything gets monetised, Mark, everything. That's just the modern world.
What do you say to the critics who say, well, you're just monetising your public service? What's your riposte to that?
Well, see, I had a quarter of a century in politics, so I have a wealth of experience of how government works, how opposition works, how politics works. So to me, it would be crazy not to tap in to that experience and that lifetime of learning about the political system.
I mean, Christopher's a charming individual. He's the perfect person to be. He's charming and smart. He could sell tea to China. You know, he's going to be a fantastic lobbyist. If I was a lobbying company, I would glom onto him too, because he's going to do a great job. But, you know, he has inside knowledge that he has gained from decades in Parliament and years as a Defence Minister, which he has taken into the defence industry.
You've been operating for a few years now. How's business going?
We're number 1 in defence, number 2 in infrastructure and construction. Business is good. I'm very happy.
Is it a lucrative industry?
Well, is it a lucrative? Yes, it's a profitable industry, otherwise you wouldn't be in business.
For lobbying firms, defence is a bonanza, with their clients keen to cash in on the $368 billion AUKUS deal between Australia, the US and the UK.
There are entire careers, entire harbourside mansions, new consulting contracts. Like, this is the feast of all feasts.
Obviously, I mean, it's not a secret to say there's $368 billion being spent on AUKUS over the lifetime of the agreement, and therefore there's a lot of businesses, UK, US, Australian, who want to be part of that story. So AUKUS is important to us, and the defence industry is important to us, but it's heavily scrutinised. It's hard to work out how much more scrutiny you could have, because...
So it's not a free-for-all?
Definitely not. I mean, it certainly is not a free-for-all.
This year, Pine & Partners paid for travel and accommodation for senior Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill to travel to Washington to participate in the firm's $5,000 a head annual AUKUS conference. We asked the senator about her trip. She said it was within the rules and that she declared it.
Literally, he pays for a politician who's inside the government to come across and schmooze with his $5,000 a pop clientele and future clientele and potential clientele over to Washington. And it's a demonstration for them that, look, hey, this bloke, he's got an inside into government. Look, he's got a senator. He brought a senator over.
The Labor senator wasn't even close to the highest ranking figure to speak at the Pine & Partners AUKUS event in Washington.
Were you aware that people were paying $4,950 to a lobbyist firm to attend your speech?
Senator Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Chief of Navy. Short answer, no. The invitation to speak at that event and other activities, I think I had 7 speaking engagements whilst I conducted that trip. That invitation came in late last year. It was referred to the Minister's office.
Christopher Pine says it's a natural fit for the incoming Chief of Defence to speak at an event focusing on AUKUS.
The other criticism that people always get is that they sit in an ivory tower in Russell Hill or Capitol Hill and never talk to anyone. So then opportunities are created by people like me for them to get out and sell their message, and also to hear from people about how it's going. And then they get criticised for doing that. So, you know, you can't have it both ways, although people do like to.
While Pine & Partners is number 1 in defence, it also has dozens of clients from other industries.
How often do you get the outcome? You know, is it often you don't get the outcome?
When you win, obviously, you tell everybody about it. When you don't win, you sort of hope that no one's noticed. So, I mean, I wouldn't know what the percentage of outcomes is, but, you know, business is business. You have a go and you see if you get there or not.
Christopher Pine is not the only former defence or defence industry minister to pivot to lobbying or a private sector firm. Liberal David Johnston is on the advisory board of big lobbying company TG Public Affairs, as is former Labor Defence Minister Kim Beazley. Joel Fitzgibbon, who also headed the defence portfolio for Labor, is a special counsel to lobbyist CMAX Advisory. While former Labor Defence Materiel Minister Mike Kelly became Australian President of the controversial US software and intelligence company Palantir.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Holsworthy Barracks. I hope you saw an impressive display of Army's newest aircraft, the UH-60 Mike Black Hawk, this morning.
It's not just former ministers who walk through the revolving door.
Jeremy King was one of the most senior members inside the Army, a Major General, and responsible for, a series of critical procurement decisions, and most notably getting a US weapons system called the Black Hawk helicopter.
Major General King had a key role in the Army's 2023 decision to replace the Taipan helicopter with 40 Black Hawks built by the world's largest defence company, Lockheed Martin, in a $2.8 billion deal. And where is Jeremy King now?
Well, he's running Lockheed Martin Australia, of course. And, when we were checking the data, there wasn't even a week between walking out of defence and taking the most senior position in Lockheed Martin Australia.
I think it was January 5 this year he leaves the military. January 12, a week later, he's appointed or announced as the new CEO of Lockheed Martin Australia New Zealand.
They can literally walk out of defence one day and walk into an arms manufacturer, a defence consultant, a lobby group the next.
In a statement to Four Corners, Lockheed Martin said it had instituted rigorous conflict of interest safeguards that isolate Jeremy King from programs connected to his defence service. Another multi-billion-dollar industry that's benefited from the revolving door has been gambling. According to Transparency International, gambling companies hire more federal lobbying firms than any other harmful industry, twice as many as alcohol. And there's one sports betting lobbyist that's particularly powerful.
Responsible Wagering Australia is the lobbying group on behalf of the gambling industry. My understanding is that it takes no prisoners in its pursuit of the best interests of the gambling industry in Parliament House.
Kai Cantwell is regarded as one of the most effective lobbyists. He's a regular presence in Parliament House, although neither he nor Responsible Wagering Australia are required to be on the Federal Lobbyist Register because RWA is an industry association.
Kai Cantwell effectively lives at Aussies, which is the cafe inside Parliament House where you meet all the ministers, all the journalists. He set up permanent camp there, so he's very effective.
He's forever setting up shop in the break rooms, which are meant to be for staff to actually go and have a lunch break and use a microwave. He's in there doing Zoom calls. Like, he clearly camps out at Parliament House and has a lot of access.
David Pocock's office says it has twice reported Kai Cantwell to the Senate's Usher of the Black Rod for using the staff break rooms to hold video meetings. The Responsible Wagering Australia boss declined our requests for an interview. In an interview with Four Corners last year, it was put to the gambling lobbyist that he was regularly knocking on MPs' doors.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't characterise it as that at all. I think it would be an intrusion to just go and bang down doors.
There is one door Kai Cantwell is familiar with, the revolving door. He moved to Responsible Wagering Australia, which represents major gambling companies like Sportsbet and Bet365, after working as Chief of Staff to then Social Services Minister Anne Ruston.
Is help frame laws to reduce gambling harm, and then he's jumped the fence and is working for the gambling industry. You have to wonder, at what point did he start to have conversations with the gambling industry about taking up that role?
Kai Cantwell is by no means the only political operative to pass through the revolving door into the gambling lobby or wagering companies. Just a few months after Labor Senator and former Senior Minister Stephen Conroy quit Parliament, he took up the position of RWA's Executive Director. And the current chairman of RWA is former long-standing Liberal Cabinet Minister Nick Minchin. Under the federal rules, RWA, despite representing some of the biggest gambling players in the country and scoring meetings with state and federal ministers, is not regarded as a lobbying group.
Well, it's an organisation which seeks to change the behaviour of government by meeting with politicians and changing the way that we behave or the decisions that we make. So yes, it's clearly a lobbying group.
In a statement, Responsible Wagering Australia said it complies with all applicable laws, disclosure requirements and parliamentary protocols, and rejects any suggestion its conduct has been improper.
Thank you.
The limits of the register matter because the gambling industry has been lobbying during one of the most important policy contests it has faced.
Is it just on the gambling ledge? Is that all it is?
Simon Kennedy is a federal Liberal MP and the co-chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Gambling Harm Minimisation.
This is a country that already has the worst gambling problems in the world, and they actually have crumbled to the gambling lobby.
At Sportsbet, we're proud supporters of those who have a crack.
A report by the late Labor MP Peter Murphy recommended a complete online gambling advertising blackout, a national regulator and a ban on inducements. But after a fight back by the gambling lobby, critics say the Albanese government put up a watered-down bill.
Sportsbet, proud supporters of having a crack.
I want our politicians to be strong enough to stand up to lobbyists. And whether that's the Prime Minister with the gambling lobbyists, we need our politicians to be acting in the national interest and for everyday Australians, not being the sound pieces for lobbyists and their megaphones.
I almost became one of the gambling-related suicides that no one talks about.
Kate Seselja almost lost everything to poker machines. She wants the government to stand up to an industry she says destroys lives.
There was part of me that really, really broke when I realised that my well-being as a citizen of Australia was not prioritised from a public health perspective when it comes to gambling harm. That, in fact, I was human collateral damage of a tax revenue stream and industry profits.
Labor MP and veteran paediatrician Mike Freelander represents the seat of Macarthur in Western Sydney, a community he says has been ravaged by gambling addiction.
We see people involved in family breakdown, in family violence, people losing houses.
Four Corners spoke to Mike Freelander in July as the government was trying to get support for its gambling reforms. He wanted the Prime Minister to take on the gambling industry and its lobbying arm.
The Prime Minister is very worried about making enemies of very powerful groups. And I think we saw that years ago when we tried to rein in the clubs and pubs around, poker machines and things. And I understand in some way why he's reticent to take stronger action.
Because this is a very powerful lobby, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievably powerful.
So the Prime Minister is obviously cognisant that if he pushes too hard, he's going to have some powerful enemies there.
Yeah, well, they're powerful enemies to make. And, his political judgment's been pretty good so far. I've got to give him credit for that. Certainly speaking for my community, they would love us to be stronger.
Who do you really want a meeting with? Who would you like to talk to?
I really want to sit down with the PM and have him tell me to my face that he's getting the balance right.
Kate Seselja now works free of charge, advocating for those who've suffered gambling harm. Like Kai Cantwell, she has a parliamentary pass, but she's not getting the meetings she wants.
We have nowhere near the level of access that gambling companies and these industries that feed off gambling interests have as way of access to politicians.
Recently, Kate Seselja found herself sitting close to Kai Cantwell at the Parliament House Cafe when she got a phone call from the distressed father of a young man.
He just discovered that his son was $150,000 in debt from sports betting. And he'd gone so far as pawning he and his wife's rings to try and win back that money. And I'm listening to this man on the worst day of his life talk to me about his 24-year-old son. And I'm filled with rage that a metre away, the man who is paid to protect this industry was right there. And I wanted to just hand him the phone and go, Kai, you deal with this.
David Pocock says the gambling lobby has won the battle to sway the Prime Minister for now.
This is a PM that is captured by the gambling lobby, by the sports, by the broadcasters. So it's tragic. And
the gambling lobby has been very effective.
Incredibly effective. Yeah, they've won this one because they got to the Prime Minister.
It's Parliament's annual Night of Nights, the Midwinter Ball. To some, it's an occasion to relax and have a few drinks, and an opportunity to rub shoulders with those who shape policy. Among the guests tonight, Kai Cantwell. Also in his finery tonight is Labor MP Dan Rapopoli. He's Australia's first special envoy for men's health. He's spoken passionately in the Parliament about the devastation caused by gambling.
For some blokes, it becomes something much darker. It leads to stress, shame, financial trouble and broken relationships. It can push people to breaking point and tear families apart.
While warning of the damage caused by gambling, Dan Rapopoli is happy to accept the industry's hospitality. Tonight, the Special Envoy for Men's Health, who warns about the evils of gambling, is a guest at a table sponsored by Sportsbet.
I think it's a terrible look. A terrible, terrible look.
Would you accept hospitality from Sportsbet?
I wouldn't.
I thought it was actually a failure of judgment by Dan. He's a nice person. He made a really bad call there.
Four Corners caught up with the Special Envoy for Men's Health, but he wasn't keen to chat.
Can I grab you for a second?
So I've got to get back on the conference floor.
It's just a quick question.
Thing there.
You've spoken very passionately in the Parliament about the impact of men's health, on men's health, about gaming.
I've got to get back into the conference floor. I don't have time to have a chat now, buddy.
Why accept
it's been a good conference here. It's been a good conference here.
It's a pretty easy
I'm going to have a conversation in there, and I'm going to go in and do what I'm doing on my job there in the conference floor.
Okay, then.
In a written statement, Dan Rapopoli said he had made all appropriate declarations, including about the Midwinter Ball.
Kai Cantwell, CEO of Responsible Wagering Australia.
With the Greens and the crossbench initiating a Senate grilling of the sports bet industry and the opposition unwilling to back his bill, Anthony Albanese was finally forced to give ground last week, offering a new opt-out scheme for online gambling advertising and a tighter rein on wagering inducements. While it's enough to get the opposition on board and his bill through, critics say the gambling lobby is still the winner.
They go on grooming our kids. We have more suicides. We have more domestic violence. We have more crime. They win because this bill isn't good enough.
In trying to get a handle on just how much access the gambling lobby gets, Four Corners analysed the publicly available ministerial diaries from the states and territories. One of the most transparent states is Queensland, and that's where Kai Cantwell appears to have been busiest. On a single day in August last year, the Responsible Wagering Australia boss met with 7 LNP government ministers, including the Premier. But what our analysis doesn't and can't show is what meetings took place at the federal level, because Commonwealth ministerial diaries are not published.
Ministers do not want us to know who they're meeting with, where, when and why. And that's because I think if we had that transparency, they'd be asked some pretty uncomfortable questions.
Even some lobbyists have no problem if their meetings with ministers are made public.
I'm perfectly comfortable if ministers want to release their diaries and say who they met with, what were they met with them about. I actually think, what's the thing you're trying to protect? It's integrity of government.
Other lobbyists, like former Federal Minister Christopher Pyne, oppose releasing ministerial diaries.
No, I think it's a mad idea. What do they think the ministers are doing? Let's see. I mean, what do these so-called advocates, what do they think the ministers are putting in their diaries that they're going to be revealed, that are going to suddenly, be a smoking gun?
If access is the currency of lobbying, Conrad Benjamin knows what it's like to be flat broke. A former high school economics teacher from Newcastle, Benjamin was inspired by his students to get stuck into political advocacy, like calling for a 25% tax on Australia's gas exports.
Let's face it, both major parties are bought and sold, paid for, quite literally, by the gas lobby.
How does it make you feel when you hear lobbyists say that what they do, lobbying, is good for our democracy?
I would say buying and selling access to our politicians, how can that ever be good for democracy?
Benjamin created Punters Politics, aimed at younger voters, amassing more than 600,000 followers on Instagram alone.
Has that meant that you've been able to get through those doors to see people who make the decisions?
Not the ones that actually make the decisions. Give it up for the lobbyists, everybody.
Struggling to get a meeting with a minister, Conrad Benjamin decided to use the system against it.
So tonight we're coming together to celebrate our awesome system of political lobbying and how our political parties raise money by selling access to our politicians to the highest bidder. So I had the Punters Politics political fundraiser, and I quite literally sold tickets and said, hey, if you want to see this politician, give me money.
How much did you get?
So we got 100 grand in total. Fundraise 100 grand.
And what did you decide to do with your $100,000?
Get a lobbyist.
So if you can't beat them, join them.
If you can't beat them, join them. Right, like this is how the system works. It's ridiculous. Well, thanks for jumping on, Rachel.
With his fundraising money, Conrad Benjamin hired Rachel Smith from the lobbying outfit Pocket Advisory.
Does lobbying work? You tell me.
Yeah.
2 weeks after getting a lobbyist and passing their first paycheck.
And boom.
Look at this. Thank you, senators and members, for having me. Honestly, it's not every day that a regular punter like me gets to sit at the table with so many politicians, which normally would cost, what, $3,000 a head? Sorry, just a little political joke to warm everyone up there.
But Conrad Benjamin wants more access than that.
Have you landed that ministerial meeting yet?
No. But we will keep trying.
Four Corners has analysed political donations from 93 federally registered lobbying firms between 1998 and 2025. All up, they disclosed about $13.5 million in donations. For the top 10 firms, the combined total to Labor and the Coalition was about $4.8 million, or about 1/3 of the entire pool. More than $3 million of that went to Labor, with Hawker Britain alone accounting for about $1.16 million. Pyne and Partners, a relative newcomer, donated to both sides, about $68,000 to Labor and $35,000 to the Coalition.
We don't donate very much. We tend to be more focused on the people and the areas that are of interest to our clients. So, you know, we will go to fundraisers that Richard Miles is speaking at, or Angus, or obviously Anthony. So we tend to kind of be selective about what we do, and that's really simply so that we can put our clients in front of ministers and like-minded people.
Now, Hawker Britain is by far the largest political donor, more than $1.1 million to Labor. Why donate so much?
Well, in fact, what we do is we donate to attend events. So, for example, we don't write cheques to Labor Party politicians of, any amount of money, even $1, for example. But the party puts on a lot of events and, obviously spending time with politicians and decision makers is a valuable thing for us to do.
It's a very expensive operation then, isn't it?
It can be, but the answer is, if you want to attend, you pay.
It's the 50th National Conference of the Australian Labor Party, this year in Adelaide, where about 400 delegates from the Prime Minister down to ordinary party members gather to shape the ALP's future platform.
Behind here is where the public action happens. That's on the conference floor where policy's debated. But if you pay thousands of dollars, you're allowed up these escalators. That's where, maybe through your lobbyist, you get pay for access for ministers. You can get meeting after meeting after meeting.
Sponsoring the so-called Business Observers program at the National Conference is lobbying firm Hawker Britton.
So there are more than 100 businesses and other organisations that are coming and speaking with government ministers and others around the party about what's going on.
So it's a form of speed dating, if you like.
It is a form of speed dating. So they're really short, like 15-minute sort of time slots to have a chat. But the good news is if you know what you want to say, you should be able to get your point across pretty quickly.
One lobbyist at the conference told Four Corners they shelled out more than $10,000 to meet 6 federal ministers for just a few minutes a pop.
The ALP National Conference, is that a great opportunity to meet those decision makers and have a little bit of face time, if you like?
Well, it's a speed dating event, you know, both sides, all the major parties offer them. Some people get a lot out of it. They get to see policy making at the party coalface, if you like.
This paid-for speed dating isn't restricted to the federal level or to the Labor side of politics.
The ministerial diary in Queensland shows that on a single day last year, you met with, sometimes with a client, but you met with 9 government ministers in a day, including the Premier. That's a pretty busy day.
It was a busy day, and it was a very useful day for the government to hear from my clients and for my clients to put their point of view forward.
Is that just a fact of life to sort of sometimes get that face time that you need? You have to pay for it?
I don't see it as cash for access. The reason we donate is to go to functions so we get to know the MPs and ministers who are there.
I mean, if you asked most Australians, should a lobbying firm, whose whole business is to lobby, to get access, should they be allowed to donate to political parties? I think most people would say no. That is clearly problematic. You know, before I became a senator, I really had no idea about the extent of it.
Labor MP Mike Freelander believes there needs to be more visibility around political donations.
We need to recognise none of these groups are lobbying because of altruistic reasons, or very few of them. And I think we should be much more transparent about lobbying from groups that cause social harm.
The Attorney-General's Department told Four Corners that since mid-2023, it received 52 reports of alleged breaches of the Lobbying Code of Conduct. Of those, 12 breaches were substantiated, while 4 investigations are ongoing. But the department refused to tell us the outcome of any of its investigations due to what it called privacy reasons. Four Corners also lodged a Freedom of Information request, but the department again refused to release its investigation reports.
Well, why shouldn't the public see? If you put up rules and then even when you get caught, nothing happens, you know, you get a slap on the wrist and carry on with business, well, what's the point of the rules in the first place?
Lobbying and its ever-revolving door have been part of the Australian political landscape for decades. And for those in the business, it remains an essential part of the democratic process.
Lobbyists are the sinews that make the arms and legs of government work better. They bring ideas and proposals to ministers and ministers' staff that they wouldn't otherwise necessarily see. And that gives ministers another source of advice, and that's good for the Australian government and therefore good for the Australian public.
But with more than 350 firms on the federal books, including nearly 70 new players registered this year alone, this is an industry that's growing rapidly and becoming increasingly sophisticated when it comes to getting what it wants.
There are too many lobbyists. I think Australia is governed for vested interests and for the squeaky wheels, and why I came into Parliament is I want to be the lobbyist and advocate for the Australians who can't afford lobbyists. I'm their lobbyist. That's why I was elected.
And the revolving door is spinning faster than ever, with more and more political insiders joining the lobbying ranks.
What would happen if that revolving door was slammed firmly shut?
cutting people like me out of a future career in working with government as a lobbyist is kind of a madness to waste all those experiences.
We paid you between 200 and 500 grand a year. You work it out, mate. You know, I've been a teacher and earning a lot less than that, and I have to work it out when I finish teaching. You'll work it out as well.
The federal regime is almost 20 years old. It still does not reveal the basic facts: who lobbyists meet, when they meet, and what they seek. Without that information, Australians cannot properly judge who is trying to shape the decisions made in their name.
Australians are losing faith in government. They're losing faith in politicians. I think they think we're all a little bit dirty. And with good reason. Because they're seeing us making decisions which are in the best interests of lobbying groups, not in their best interests.
If you or anyone you know needs help, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36.